Hello and welcome to today's webinar and to our three-part series on optimizing your processes. Today we're going to be talking about the best of the test, and the thing you've all been waiting for, the interpretation of the test results and the automatic evaluation of the test results. Today's webinar will be structured just as the previous ones. We will do a presentation of about 25 minutes first, and then later on you will have the option to ask questions if you have any. I will not be talking all on my own for 25 minutes. Luckily, I will be joined by my colleague Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello and welcome everyone.
Who will be talking a bit more in detail about the options and the options for individualization of the test results. So about our process, we set out to help you optimize your processes in 3 steps. In the first webinar, we have been talking about the persons database, how to set up persons, how to create a new test person, and how to edit them, how to adjust the options as well. In the second part, we have been talking about testing, how to set up the tests, how to specify test batteries, etc. And today, in the third part, we will be talking about the test results. Note that all of these webinars will also be made available in the near future on our website and on our YouTube page as well, so you can have a look at them later on. Once the test has been completed, we also, of course, want to have a look at the results. So in the last webinar, the final step was completion of the test, and then we left it off on some sort of a cliffhanger a little bit. Jane Doe completed the COGBAT in this example, and now, of course, we want to see what happened, to see the results. The test results tab is also structured similarly to the persons database tab and also a bit similar to the testing tab. So here we have different options as well, which offer a lot of possibilities, but the core concepts and the core functions are very easily explained and very easy to use. So here in the first part, we have the search feature. Then we have the visibility feature where you can hide your results. We have the scoring options where you can adapt the scoring method, etc. We have the export field and the import field, and all of these we are going to talk about today, and we're going to explain to you today in a bit more detail. The search option allows fast navigation through the database. So if you click up here and put in a last name here, you can filter for last name immediately. I did that already. I searched for test because I always set up my test persons with names like this, and then they all show up, the ones I generated, the test persons, test person 1, test person 2, etc. And we have a quick overview here. So if you have a smaller database or you test just a few people each day, this window will be quite easy to use. You can sort the test persons, for example, by name, or also very conveniently by date of test presentation, where you always have the newest test results on top, and then you can use this. So in most cases, this will be sufficient. But if you have a very large database and want to filter it very precisely, you also have the option to click on detailed search up here. And this will present you with this window where you can do a lot of configuration for the search options. So first up here, you have the option to search just for specific tests and test forms. Here I searched for just the int combined with the last name test, and then these two persons still show up. They both completed the int and they both have test in the last name. Another option would be to put in a specific time frame in which the tests have been completed. So here I put in the 6th of April until that same day, so just one day. And here all of the persons who completed the test on this day and have the last name test are shown. In this, of course, you can also put in the 1st of March until the 31st of March, and you will be able to display all of the test results from that period of time. Then, very importantly, you also have the option to sort for the scoring code. The scoring code is a very convenient option to put in, important information about your clients, your test persons in this field. So here you can put in, for example, information about the location where a test has been completed or where the testing has been done. And if you put it in here in the search function later on, you can, for example, filter for Vienna, German word Wien, and choose contains here. Then it will list all of the persons that have the 4 letters W, I, E, and N in that configuration in the scoring code. If you choose starts with, in this case, nothing would have showed up because the scoring code doesn't start with these 4 letters, but starts with something else. Then, of course, you also have the option to do a lot more customization, for example, filter for certain age ranges, for certain genders, or for certain education levels. The test results can also be hidden. So maybe you remember it from our first webinar about the persons database, where you can use this button to hide the persons from your database. In the results as well, you can hide the list of results just by clicking this, and then no results can be seen anymore. This is very convenient if, for example, someone has a look at your screen and you have sensible data on there. You can just hit that button and choose not to display any of the person data and the results data. The individual scoring also offers very detailed results for each test. So the individual scoring, from my point of view, is like the first go-to. If you do a single test with a person, you usually have a look at the individual scoring. And how can you do this? You select the person here, and then you click on scoring method individual scoring from the drop-down menu and choose show, and then this will show up. And in most cases, this will show up in the first part with all of the test results and test result variables for each test in a table. So here you have this table, and then in the second part, you also have things like a profile or test protocols or other information depending on the test. These kinds of information can also be adapted. You can choose what to display and what not to display on this sidebar of the results. So in the results options, you can choose, for example, the norm sample, which is also displayed here, which one is currently chosen. And if you click on this drop-down menu, you can also choose other norm samples from the list. Same goes for the language. So this is presented in English here, I hope. Yes, it is. Just certain words are in German. But you can also choose something like German. You can choose a lot of different languages for the results. Then you can, in the case of the int, you can choose the description of the variables, and that's always displayed below the results table down here. And if you remove the check mark, if you click here, then these will not be displayed. Same goes for the confidence intervals. Below the percentile ranks, in this case, you can see these little numbers in brackets, which are only displayed if you choose this options confidence interval. So let's go to the display settings as well. So here you have a quick overview of the main variables in this table. This is because this option has been chosen and this option has not been chosen. So here you can also choose to add additional variables as well. down to the profile. Here you see the profile with the percentile ranks and also the test protocols, which have been chosen here. And here you are free to individualize this and add or remove any necessary or unnecessary information you want to display or you don't want to display for your use case. An important thing to note is that here with the norm type drop-down menu, you always also have the option to adapt this part of the results table and also the profile. If you choose another norm type, for example, T values or standard 9 values, you can display them here as well. And you always have the option to choose between the different values in the Vienna test system. All right, but now how about test sets? That's a little bit different. So here we see a test set COGBAT and how do results look if I choose a test set. So to see tested results, I first, of course, have to have a completed result for a test set, and then I can choose the scoring method, COGBAT, for example, for this test set. And the results of test sets are usually more concise than the very detailed individual scorings, and they offer a good and quick overview for the different variables. And in this case, the COGBAT also gives you an index value that gives you an overview over all of the values, as well as these signs here that show you is it a green value, is it a yellow value on a traffic light symbol scale. Same goes here for the profile. Remember that the COGBAT includes I think 8 tests in total. So here you see all of the main variables for each test, but just to give you an overview over all of these tests, and a lot of the information is condensed into the most important parts here. But nevertheless, sometimes having a closer look at the individual results can be very valuable for the interpretation of test results. In this case, I went to the WAF results. If you choose individual scoring up here, you can also display the results for each of the tests of the test set individually. In this case, you have the main variables here, but you could also choose to display additional variables, the subsidiary variables, etc. One important thing I want to note here is that the footnotes here and the possible warnings, for example, in this case, the audio device did not meet the specifications, are only displayed in the individual test results. The test results of the test set will tell you that there is a warning and the individual test results should be checked for these variables. So here, this is always important to check that if there are irregularities in the test results of a test set. Some tests, like the BUF or some test sets, like the COGBAT, also allow result and profile comparison for the same person. So if you want to test the same person multiple times over a specific time frame, like after 3 weeks with an intervention in between, and if you want to check if the intervention was successful, the Vienna Test System offers the possibility to do this. So here, if you choose both of these results for the same person, they have completed the BUF, the short form of the BUF 2 times. Then you go to the scoring method and choose results and profile comparison, and then you will be shown this window, which offers a quick overview of the results of both times. So time 1 is the first time the test has been presented, and time 2 is the second time that has been presented, and it also gives you a critical value over here that indicates whether or not there has been a significant change. To interpret this, results lower than minus 1.95 indicate that there has been significant improvements, or this can also go into the other direction with plus 1.95, and if they are higher, this would indicate that the results have declined significantly. Here you also have the profile comparison, so you can also choose to display the profiles here, where you can have a quick overview over both time frames, so both the testing times, the first one in the darker shade and the second one in the lighter shade here. And here you can have a quick overview and see that alertness, there has been quite an improvement over the two times the test has been presented. And for the divided attention, both of them are in a similar area in the above average range. So there hasn't been that much change. All right, the output options are also quite important because they allow customization for the test results header. We've been in quite of a clinical context before with the COGBAT, so I want to switch it up a little bit here, and we're going to be talking about the university example wheel that are doing testing for their informatics department, and they want to choose the best persons for beginning studying. And they also want to individualize their test results so they can see that this has been the admission test and also where the admission test has been done. So if you want to do that, you can go to the settings, to the results outputs, and to the output options here. And then you can put in a title bar in the test result printout, as well as add additional personal data to the test result printout. So here I put admission test in the title bar, and I chose location for the additional data. Let's go back to the results. And here we see in the top of the header of the results, it now displays admission test. So now we know this has been for the admission test, and it also shows us the location where it has been done. Here we see the admission test was in Vienna, or the testing has been done in Vienna, because this field has been chosen for that person. Good, so that much about the basic options and possibilities of the test results. And now I want to give the mic to Chris to take over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julian. After we've seen how to navigate through the database and how to display individual scorings, we now want to have a look what further options we have with the results. And a quite handy feature here are word reports. And what word reports do is simplify verbalization and interpretation of results. They are available for a great range of our tests. And if we have a look at what happens here is that we start with quite a lot of text. The first text block is about the overview of the results and the introduction for the testing. In this case, the testing was done with our int, and we have information about who was tested, when was the person tested, what specific skills were tested, and how long did the testing or how long was the test duration. Furthermore, we have information about the interpretation. Here we find detailed explanations of what are percentile ranks and how to interpret them. And last but not least, we have detailed interpretation of the test results. Here we can see quite a quick overview. We have cognitive abilities as a general score in this test, and this test or this score is built by a score for logical reasoning or a result for logical reasoning, for verbal abilities, and for the numerical ability. And then cognitive abilities or the skills are explained and given more information, or there's more information about these skills. And in the blue box below, we find the interpretation of the result, namely it is an average result here with a percentile rank of 50. Another feature or another thing we can do with the results is to rank them with the ranking profiles. And let's go back to our university example wheel. And as you can see, they have a large number of applicants for their bachelor program in informatics. And 3 of these applicants are Tom Example, Endo, and Max Hu, which you can see here in the VTS. And now let's have a look what the requirements are for studying informatics at the University Exampleville. So what they want to see in their students is that they have a mathematical knowledge, that they have a basic affinity for numbers and technology, and that they are able to think abstractly, systematically, logically, and analytically. And if we translate this to psychological dimensions, we could say this is numerical skills and logical reasoning. And if we have a more detailed look and want to know which of these 2 skills is more important, very simplified here, we can say it's numerical skills because it's mentioned 2 times. In real life, these requirements analysis are of course more detailed, and we have other tools to do this by than just counting how often a skill is mentioned. But for the purpose of the example, I think this is quite fine. And you can see numerical skills is very important, logical reasoning is still quite important, and we have added a 3rd skill, namely verbal skills, because we want to assure that a basic skill or basic verbal skills are given, because for studying or for academic research, you of course have to read a lot of information, write your own papers, and so on. But verbal skills is, or we don't, or we are not interested in whether or not the person is average or whether or not this is above average. We only want to know that the person is not below average in verbal skills. So it is not very important, but still a basic skill we want to check. And what we can do now is to sum up or calculate a score out of these 3 results, or out of these 3 test results. And in the score, we take into account the result itself, but also the importance of the result relatively to the other results. And this allows us to do a ranking. And as we can see, Endo is 1st place, then 2nd is Max Hu, and Tom Example is not included in the ranking. Why is this? Because he didn't match the basic requirements for the verbal skills, so he's not suited for this for studying informatics. And what this allows the University of Exampleville is to, first of all, identify applicants which meet the requirements, and furthermore rank these applicants. What is especially handy if you have only a limited slots available. Let's say they have out of 500 applicants, 200 are meet the requirements, but they only have 50 slots, so they want to rank the 50 best of them and then select them. And of course, you can also export the results stored in a VTS. Going back to our University of Exampleville, let's say the department doing the tests wants to transfer the results and the personal data to the administration of the university. And what they can do now is export the data with 3 different options. First of all, they have the VTS export, which is mainly for external backups. This is a specific file format for the Vienna Test System and is quite handy if you want to transfer data to another VTS, or like I said, store it somewhere and import it later. Then we have the SPSS export, which allows detailed statistical analysis. Psychologists probably know it. It's a quite popular software from IBM, often used for the statistical analysis. And last but not least, and probably most important for our University of Exampleville, is the CSV export. You can do or feed interfaces with CSV files, do simple statistical analysis, but I think the main advantage here is that it is easy to open this file as long as you have Microsoft or another tabulator program installed, or Excel, sorry, not Microsoft. You can open this file. So it is quite handy for transferring data to externals or internals not working with the VTS. And for the CSV export, you can specifically define which information you want to include in the export. And to do this, we go to settings, then data export and import. And then we open this window called export definitions. And as you can see here, we created a new export definition called webinar export. And what this does is specify which information should be given in the CSV file. So as you can see here, we want to export the name of the person, date of birth, the test duration, gender, educational level, but of course also results from the testing. So we have the cognitive ability here, raw score, and cognitive ability percentile rank. And we do this by selecting these variables here and here. So here you can select the person-related information, and here you can export or define which results from the tests should be exported. And if we go back to the, oh, sorry, yeah, one more important information. You, of course, can anonymize exports, which is especially important if you want to give your data to third persons to do, for example, data analysis, or we often do customer-specific norms here at Schulfried, and we also ask for anonymously exported personal data because of course the names are not very interesting for statistical analysis. It's more about the hard data, let's say. So always anonymize your data to be safe here. And if we go back to the test results, we can see that all export definitions are immediately available. As you can see here, we just created webinar export, but we also have further definitions like IT, specifically for the bachelor program of informatics, for example, or export accounting, because we need some different variables here. And furthermore, you can automate the export of test results by going to settings, direct testing, and then scoring. And as you can see here, you have a great variety of options. For example, you have automatic test result output as well as automatic report generation. You can furthermore protect these reports with a password, what is especially useful if you store the reports to a directory where a lot of people have access or a lot of people of your organization have access to, but you don't want all of them to have access to the reports, so you can put a password on them. You have a lot of more options here, or a lot more options here, for example, a default printer or an automatic data export like a CSV export. If you want to know more about this, we would recommend to go to the VTS help file, which you can access by clicking the blue question mark in the right upper corner. And here you can see there's a lot of information given about all these options. And in general, help file is quite a quite nice thing to go to if you want to know what your possibilities in VTS are, or if you don't fully understand what a feature does. And if you look at the structure of the help file, you can see it's quite similar, or actually similar to the VTS. If you look in the background, we are at settings, direct testing, and then scoring. And if you have a look at where we find information about the scoring, it's also direct testing. And then we have the 4 options here: login, options, test presentation, and scoring. And where you can export data, you can of course import data as well. And in the VTS, you have 2 options. First of all, the VTS import, just as mentioned, if you do backups or transfer data from one VTS to another. And second, you have the CSV import. And what is especially handy with this feature is that when results are imported, the corresponding persons are automatically important to your persons data bank as well. So you don't have to create new persons and relate them to the results. This is done fully automatically. And second important to know is that if you export results with the option of anonymized results, then the persons created here are dummy persons. So they are not called by the name, but they have I don't know, a few numbers and a few letters assigned in a random order, so fully anonymous. So we also have the option to individualize scorings for VTS. So if you use VTS already, you know that for each test you apply, a separate page with results is printed out or displayable. And as we can see here, for example, we have tested InSpot and COG, and we have 2 different pages given with a lot of information. And we may not be interested, or maybe not all of the variables given here are interesting to us. So we want to select only those of interest, and we create individual scoring. We call it scoring example here. You can also assign your company's name here or your university's name, and then only select the variables of interest and group them in a way that seems logical to you. So it gives quite a good overview and a quick overview over the results. And if you're interested into this option, then please contact your account manager and we will have a look at what solution we can provide here. The same accounts for Word reports, which can also be individualized. For example, to suit your company's corporate design, we have a report here in our Schulfried colors. But not only is it possible to implement your own design, but we can also help with adjusting the interpretations and verbalization of results to your specific requirements. For example, if we have the university and the bachelor's program of informatics, we probably want to inform candidates why is logical reasoning important for studying informatics, and what does it mean if you have an above average result, or what does it mean if you have a below average result. And last but not least, there are also ready-made product packages for specific applications available at Schulfried. We picked one example here, the so-called report sales, which was designed to select suitable applicants for sales positions. And what it provides is a pre-selected dimensions and tests. The selection here was done by Schulfried's experts. It also provides 3 different report options, namely candidates report, HR report, and a manager's report. And they differ, for example, in the level of detail they provide, let's say, or for example, the HR report is very, very detailed, including all the information you basically can have out of the test, while the manager's report gives a quick overview, because for them or for those positions, it's mostly important to have a general overview and process these informations fast. And furthermore, what is a quite cool feature is that based on the participants' results, you can create individual interview guidelines and onboarding plans automatically. So this means if you print out the interview guideline, it will give you interview questions for the context of sales, of course, and specifically aim at strength and development areas of the participant. The same thing accounts for recommendations giving in the onboarding plan, which is quite handy because you can transfer the information you gain in the testing to the actual, let's say, team lead of the person and help them to include the test results in the onboarding.
All right, that brings us to the end of our 3-part series. So we've completed the information on the persons tab, on the persons database, on testing itself, and on the test results today. Thank you very much for your participation and for your interest.